late. I will send a note along with the recording and talk about it. But if you could send me that attachment, I will send that along with the recording. And I'm sorry I didn't start recording sooner.
No worries. Okay, great. Thanks so much. And have a great semester, everybody. I'll have to take off, but good to see you. If you're in person at all, please stop by and say hi to Cecilia and I. We're in social sciences. Bye.
Thanks, Noah. Okay, we're not done with the subject. We have Sabrina with us, and she's done some presentations across campus. She did it with department chairs. She came to our last meeting of the fall semester. So here's an opportunity for us to talk to her and ask her questions about RSI and best practices and all of that. So we have the luxury of having Sabrina here with us. So let's take advantage.
So hi, everybody. Thank you for having me back. And I didn't prepare a presentation because, as Grant mentioned, we've done the presentation. So we want to open up this time for you to ask any questions, ask about training, ask about resources, or if you have questions pertaining to, your own specific courses that you've been wondering about. So the floor is yours. I can start off with, can I share my screen, Grant?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. I can start off with the fact that we have this webpage, and I'll go ahead and pop the link into the chat as well. That can also give you some guidance on this. So if you're, after this presentation, if you didn't think you had any questions, but suddenly you're working in your class and you do, you can come to this webpage and get some ideas, not only about what we're talking about and why, why do we have to do this? Well, it is in ed code, but also because we know that students' performance is much better when there's this engagement with the instructor, the ability to engage in the instructor. It's also law. If we get audited and our accreditation team comes to town and says, I'm looking at your class, I don't see this in your class, and that means it's a correspondence class, we could lose our financial aid because they don't pay for correspondence. They won't do financial aid for correspondence classes. So it's kind of the whys. And then here's some examples of how you should be conducting it, including it and conducting RSI in your classes. Most people are already doing this. So sometimes it's just a matter of going through it and going, oh, yeah, no, I got this covered. But if you have any questions about it, please feel free to ask.
I have a question, and I'm not sure exactly how much it's tied to RSI, but I was actually in a hiring committee recently, and one of the instructors was looking at the candidates page, and they were dinging them because when you log on to the page, the home page went straight to the modules instead of having like picture and bio and introduction to the class. And I never liked that because then it's an extra step to get to the modules. And so mine opens on the modules. I, in the first week, say one of their assignments is go to Canvas and you have to upload a picture and a bio of themselves. And I model that. So I have my picture and bio there. And so I'm kind of doing the same thing and then asking them to do that. But what do you recommend about the homepage? Because I used to do that years ago, and you and Peter said, better to go straight to the modules, and that's what I've been doing. And now I think I'm stuck in my ways. I like that best. But
yeah, personally, I don't see any reason why you can't use modules. There's some train of thought, and that if you have a homepage, if you open up onto a homepage, you can give the students more of a direction on how to take the class, where to start, so there's no confusion. When they come into the class, if they click on your class from the dashboard, and they're going in there because they have questions, that some of that information is there and they don't have to search around for it. It can also be a way to show your students weekly or by your lesson, like, okay, hey, this, today, Monday, we're going to start on lesson 1, and here's a link directly to it. Ultimately, you're the instructor, and you get to design your class how you would like to design your class. It's academic freedom. If you know your students and they're not going to get lost, by having the modules view open and you have your modules well laid out and the navigation is good, then there's no question, like, where do I start? Then you're totally fine. So there's no requirement. You won't get dinged for starting on modules versus a homepage, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can continue to do what I like.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're the expert, right? You're the subject matter expert, and you know your students. So I'm sorry, my dog, as she's gotten older, so needy. I can't even tell you how needy she is. Anyways, I'm gonna try to minimize her barking. I see. So yeah, you're the subject matter expert, and you're totally in tune with your students. So, but the things we are looking for is the navigation easy for the students to understand? And if it is, then, if they're not going to get lost, then you're good. And I see Deborah has her hand up, and then Veronica.
Hi, everybody. Let me just put my video on so you can see me. Grant, I was like you. I'm going, what the heck is this homepage for? It's static and it's the same stuff. But I took a class last year through the ACU training, actually 2 of them, and they showed us that the homepage is not supposed to be static, that you're supposed to update it every week to correspond to what they are learning. So like you could post what the assignments are, you can post extra videos, you can tell them how well they've done in the last module, and any information that you want. And then that way it becomes more of a tool for the students. They see that homepage first, and then they get more information. So it's not static like I used to think too. Like, why would they see this every single day? So anyway, that's just my 2 cents about the homepage. You can still do whatever you want, but that's what they told us it was really for.
Okay, yeah. I do a lot of that in announcements and other things, but maybe a homepage first, as long as they know how to easily get to the modules. Yeah, I don't mean to. Veronica, you were next.
Oh, I was gonna say I had the same kind of question, because I think when we first went on to online, it was make the homepage the module page, right? And so first Peter was like, make it kind of nice, make it look nice like a classroom. And then when I was getting evaluated, then it was make the homepage the modules. And then the second evaluation was make it look nice. So it was a lot of back and forth. But anyways, I think Sabrina saw one of my homepages over winter intersession. So I think I kind of found a workaround to make everybody happy. And that is, I put a link button to the modules on my homepage. So it welcomes everybody to the course. It says, hey, this is welcome to fundamentals. This is what we're covering. Click here for this week's module. And then every week I just reprogram that button with the new module link. And then there's tabs. I could send you all a screenshot of what it looks like, and you could copy the HTML code. That's probably the best way to do it, because on that homepage I have my class bio, meet my professor bio, and then contact and office hours, and they're all like tabs and hyperlinks to the Zoom office hours. So if anyone's interested in that, I can send you the code that I found online. It's just copy and paste.
Thank you.
So, and I just want to say about the homepage, Deborah had a really good explanation. I think it's especially important that that if you do decide to use one, it's purposeful, right? So In the example that Deborah gave, you know, it's not static. So they're changing it all the time. They're adding information. So it's kind of like a student walking into a face-to-face classroom and the teacher saying, hey, here's what's happened since I saw you last, or, you know, here's what you need to know. So that's one way to use it. But again, I want to stress that, you know, you guys know your students. Do your students need that? They might, you know, that might be a really important thing for you to do. In Grant's case, maybe because he's using announcements and other formats to communicate to his students, maybe it's not as important, you know, to have that homepage. So I know there's been train of thought. I know, you know, I would probably always use a homepage. That's my own personal preference. I feel like I can kind of communicate the things and it's right there in their face. But I know teachers who use modules and their students are totally happy. They're like, nope, I go right to what I need to do and it's totally fine. So it really is just personal preference, but the ultimate goal is that your students need to know, they need to be able to navigate your class and know where to go, where to get information, and to be able to do it without becoming completely overwhelmed or without getting lost. So if that makes sense, if that helps at all. And thank you, Veronica. Veronica's done a really great job. So yeah, by all means, check out her stuff since she's willing to share, because she's done a great job with her class. So, and I'm actually going to show you, if you don't mind, I'll show you one website. I was just pulling it up as we were talking. So here's an example of somebody who does, and I hope I'm getting the right class. Let me share in just a second. Yeah, okay, I do have the right class. And Debbie Klein has always been so gracious in allowing me to share her course. She actually has been through the POCR review process and has been awarded the quality review status. So I use her. I just use it because I know it's good. That doesn't mean that there's not a lot of other great classes. Deborah has also done a great job on her classes, and so you know, and Veronica, as I mentioned, and Grant. So there's a lot of good examples out there. I always say learn from your peers. If they're willing to share with you, by all means, take advantage of that. So here's Anthropology, and this is her homepage, and she does do that interaction on a weekly basis when she releases her modules. So she definitely has a day one, please start here. And then as the weeks go by, she highlights the week. So right now we are in week 1. So the students know, and she also does an introduction video, a welcome video. So she talks to them about how to navigate the class and so forth and so on. And she may switch that out. Since this is the first week, I'm not sure, but I know she does do regular little mini announcements via video, like, hey, we did the midterm and 80% of you got a B or better, and that's great. So she'll touch bases with them that way. And that's another RSI, that's an important RSI touch point, like using those little videos. You don't have to record a lot, but it humanizes you to your students, communicates to them, and gives them that touch point. So yeah, so this is Debbie's, and she does a great job too. So just wanted to show you that non-static type of a web page. But if you're organizing your modules well, again, nothing wrong with doing that either. So here's how she organizes her modules, so she could easily probably just guide them in through the modules as well. So, and I imagine, Grant, your class is similar, in terms of being able to easily move around. So.
Great, thank you for showing that. That was nice. I wanted to ask, I'm in the middle of updating and creating a bunch of classes in CurricuNet. And we're all going to be doing that, by the way, and Jan and I will talk to you. That's our next agenda item. But on there in the DE tabs on CurricuNet, there's the one section where it's the types of RSI. And I think that's particularly helpful. Can you list some of the best ways for us to get RSI with our students?
Okay, so again, that website that I first showed you guys, I'm going to pull up a proposal on CurricuNet too, so I can show you that distance ed work Grant's talking about. But on the website that I showed you, let me go back to the share screen and I will show you the website really quick so you know what I'm talking about. This is the CurricuNet, but let me go back to that website. And I think I'm on the wrong. There it is. Okay. So if you use this website or this web page, I should say, as an example, you can easily fill out those areas. So if here's the area that Grant's talking about. How do we? It says distance ed contact, but it's RSI. How do we do that? Well, if you're gonna say, in your class, you're gonna hold discussions, then you could say, here's what you're expecting to happen. If you're going to use multimedia, this is how you might describe it. Whatever fits, whatever you're going to be using in your class, don't put it down just because you think you have to. Make sure you're going to be, that class is conducive to actually facilitating that type of contact in an online environment, and then, apply it appropriately. And these are some examples, and you can come to this page. You can cut and paste, or copy and paste, I should say, if you want to. That's fine, as long as it applies. Don't do it if it doesn't make sense. But here's the proposal. This is the distance ed tab in CurricuNet. And here's the contact area that Grant was talking about. And you can see they've added discussions, virtual conferencing, multimedia, and email. And those are their ideas about how they're going to maintain that RSI, that contact in these classrooms, or provide and facilitate those opportunities. And so, they just give a little description about what they're gonna be using this tool for in their online class. So does that answer the question? And I know David has a question, so go ahead, David.
Sabrina, would you mind copying the
You broke up
thing that the pre
you're breaking up a little bit, but I think you're telling me to copy and paste this into the chat again.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so does that help? I mean, feel free to use any of this information that you want when you are filling out a DE addendum. And that's what it's there for. So, but again, make sure it applies to your course, because it might not be you teaching this class. If you go through the curriculum approval process, you're approving the course, not you as the teacher teaching the course. So, make sure it makes sense to how you're going to satisfy the SLOs, how you're going to satisfy those curriculum requirements in your course. And remember, again, Peter and I, we're here. So if you have any questions at all, you want some more training, you want somebody to look at your class, we're more than happy to do that at any time. And it's not threatening, because we're faculty like you guys. And we just want the best, and we really enjoy helping you. So that's our main goal. If you guys have questions, if you want us to check things out, I mean, we like to see things that you guys are doing, because so many of you are doing really good things, and it gives us an opportunity to see what you're doing and to tell you, hey, this is a best practice. You're doing a great job. And I'm sure it feels good to hear that, because we don't hear that enough. We always hear when there's a problem or a complaint, but we don't hear, hey, what are we doing right? Because we're doing a lot right. So good to hear. So please feel free to contact us or come to us at any time to ask questions or take a look at your class.
I'll tell you, I take advantage of Sabrina and Peter's offer all the time. So they're very, very helpful and great resources.
Thank you, Grant.
Sure. Anyone have any questions about RSI? It's a big push right now. I was in a meeting with Modi, and it was not a fine arts instructor, but there were a few instructors, and he was finding out what they were doing and he was furious. And now he's on the lookout for anyone who does not have sufficient RSI, partly because we were dinged in our last accreditation evaluation, but he sees what some instructors are doing, and so he's really looking for it. So as Noah and Sabrina mentioned, it's best practice. It's what's best for our students. Um, but we need to be doing this not only because it's best for our students, but there are going to be people looking. So take advantage of Sabrina's offer to get advice or help to make sure that you do have the necessary RSI.
And can I piggyback onto that really quick? I wanted to say that part of the reason why Noah is worried is because through no fault of faculty themselves, we were told to go online with a 24-hour notice, right? And so some of our faculty, it's hard to do training when you're teaching. It's hard to take that time. And usually by the end of the semester, you're just like, oh my God, I need a break, right? So a lot of people are still teaching, which was acceptable at that time, in an emergency type online teaching mode. And so what we're trying to do is say, okay, now let's take a breath. Let's go back, say what's working, what's not, and help you get the support that you need and the resources you need to, and the understanding, because we can possibly learn everything that's required in an online class in 24 hours, right? So it's now, we're just now trying to go back and say, hey, okay, here, here's what we need to do. And when we had accreditation come the last time and we actually got this ding, they didn't know what they were doing. So now they've been trained. Now they're since this is more ingrained and the pandemic has hit and everything else, the team that comes has a better understanding of what they're looking for. So we need to make sure that we're on our A game. And I think we can be. I don't think there's any reason why we can't be. So it's just, helping everybody to understand what's needed. And that's really what we're there for. And I appreciate that Noah has offered this this opportunity to have the classes reviewed. So that's a really great thing. And again, take advantage of it if you can, because it'll be a big help to you.
So Sabrina, one of the things I found out is that when they come to evaluate us, they can look into any class without permission, and they can go backwards as far as they want. So they
can look in any class they want. I believe it's the current semester or the previous semester.
Right, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So we need to start making sure that we have sufficient RSI immediately, because when they come, are they coming in the fall?
I can't remember. I think it might be next year. I think it might be 2025.
Oh, well, whenever they do, they will be able to see what we're doing now. So it's not only what's best for students, but it could hurt evaluation, the accreditation. So
right, and there's literally some classes right now that if they looked at, our financial aid could be in jeopardy. So, and again, I want to stress, this isn't to call those teachers out. I think it's a matter of, hey, we did this as an emergency. Now we need to go back and say, okay, look, you know how to get your stuff online, but did you know that you also need to make sure you're providing these opportunities, you're abiding by the ed code that's in place, and let's help you out here. So Deborah and Veronica.
Deborah, you want to? Okay. I just have a quick question. Is the state eventually going to say, okay, these instructors are not trained to teach online. They have not gone through the certification process, and therefore they're not going to be allowed to teach online?
No, it's not a state process. Is that
going to eventually going to be the move? Because I have a friend who's a dean at a nearby college, and they are specifically looking at instructors who have been certified to teach online from the state?
So-
That's interesting because I don't know. Well, you can get a certification, an online teaching certification through our state professional development group, which is at one or now CBC. So you can get a certification, an online teaching certification through them once you go through certain course level or a course sequence. But it's not the state. The state doesn't want that. The state does not want that obligation. They want the individual colleges to own it. If you look at the screen, I think it's still on the understanding instructor contact. I don't know if it's on here or if it's on one of the other ed codes pertaining to distance ed, but there's one thing that puts it squarely, the training of the teachers and the assignments of online teachers and so forth and so on. It puts it squarely in the what am I going to say? The purview of the college, of the district itself. So unless they change that, but that would, I suspect, there's a distance ed coordinators group that I'm a part of, and I suspect, I mean, there would be a lot of talk about that before it actually came to be, which I don't think it would be, because I don't think the state wants to own it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I was in a meeting with Modi, and he said what will happen if the accreditation team says that enough of our online classes don't have enough RSI, is that all online classes will be classified as correspondent classes, and then we're paid at a quarter of the price. So I don't know what the exact numbers. Let's say we get $5,000 per class, or we would then get 1,200. So it would be a gigantic hit financially to the college. So they are specifically going to be looking through all of our online classes to make sure there's enough RSI.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only what's best for our students, and we have to stress that enough, but it's really going to be a ding on the college.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why Noah and the other deans are working to make sure that we know what RSI is and that we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's absolutely what's best for our online students and for the college as a whole.
Right. And if we did, and usually it's the Department of Education who does the audit and says these are correspondence classes, and so we're taking away your financial aid. So it wouldn't necessarily be accreditation, but if accreditation comes through and says these are all correspondence classes, then probably the Department of Education is not far behind. And then of course, not only are we getting less because then those courses are designated as correspondence courses, but then we are also our students can't register for them using financial aid. So it's a serious thing. And again, ultimately, it's what's best for our students. And our online courses now, we're in competition because our students have the ability to go to any of the 115 community colleges at this point. And so if the word gets out that Gavilan doesn't have a good quality standard of online courses, they'll just go elsewhere. So I can't also stress that enough. But I also want to stress, most of you are doing a fantastic job. So don't think that, we're in dire straits here with our online classes. Most of you are doing a fantastic job. We just need to bring up the standard of quality for everyone.
I also want you to know that when Noah approached me with this, I was like, oh my God. I don't want to be a bad cop. So I told them, I said, I always look for the good in every class and in every student. And if there's something I see that they could improve upon, I'll tell them, but I am not going to go out there and just go into each class and look for all the bad things. That's not what I will do. And he knows it. So we are looking for the good, and we're looking for ways that we could possibly improve it and up to POCR standards so that we can get those classes out on the CVC so we can have more students enrolled. So anyway, I'm not going to be a bad cop, and I hope to make it more fun than anything else. So, and besides that, I want to look at your classes and steal some ideas.
Yeah, I was going to say that one of the best things for me is seeing what other people are doing well. So Sabrina, when you shared Debbie's class, I'm going to reach out to Debbie and say, hey, do you mind if I check out your class and try to steal, which is a positive thing. If someone's doing
Right.
something really great, you want to borrow that to make my own class better. So more examples of what other instructors are doing really well, I think are great.
And
Yeah.
I have to tell you that I mean, you know, I don't hear a lot of bad things about our online courses, but I want to say that Debbie Klein is one instructor I have never had a student complain about. And I mean, I have a lot of classes like that, so no, she's not the only one. But you know, just given that fact that that class is a quality reviewed course and everything, that speaks to that work that she's put into it, you know, to get it to that place. So.
Yeah, but the great thing is we don't have to work in a silo.
Right.
You showed Debbie's class. Even I saw some things I'm going to lift off of that because I'm going, wow, that's really cool. You just highlight it every week. That's easier, and the students know where to go. So, you know,
I've learned things every time I teach, like the intro to online teaching class, Veronica. I mean, I've learned a lot. I learn a lot. I like, oh, that's good. Oh, wow, that's great. You know, so
Yeah.
so that's what we shouldn't be afraid of showing our classes. We should actually be like, hey, yeah, I want to see what I'm doing well, because generally you are doing a lot of stuff well. So so it's not anything to be afraid of. It's like actually a great opportunity to get that feedback that you're doing some really good things. So
Anyone have other questions for Sabrina or about RSI or anything at all? Okay, there's one other thing that I want to ask Sabrina's opinions about, and it's class modalities. We can teach in a variety of different ways. We've been talking a lot about asynchronous online classes, but then there are classes that where there's Zoom elements to that, so that you're distance learning but still have contact. And then there are face-to-face classes, and then there's combinations of all of those. So I love to hear your input, Sabrina, and then if you have any questions for her, she could talk about the different modalities.
okay, thanks, Grant. So a while back, like a year or so ago, we had some conversation at the DE committee level and in other groups that there was some confusion, especially when we were listing our classes in the schedule. We wanted to kind of get a uniform definition of what classes were being held and how, you know, what it meant and how the student was supposed to take it without it seemed like every department had kind of their own wording in the schedule, and it wasn't consistent enough. And students who might be taking classes from 4 different departments were kind of like, oh, well, that's the same. I'm going to be taking it the same way as it's over here, but it sounds different, you know? So we got together and we said, okay, here's how we define the delivery methods. We've actually, this should be somewhere in the schedule and in our catalog as well, so that our students see these descriptions. But what I wanted to iterate, because one of the things I saw this semester was that an instructor actually who was teaching in an asynchronous class actually had an announcement that said, okay, we have our class time set up for Fridays at 3 o'clock. Well, I will see you then. And that concerns me because that's a definite date and time. And if a student signs up for an online asynchronous class, there should not be any required meeting dates and times. So when the student looks at the schedule and sees an asynchronous class, they know they're signing up for a class that's not going to require them to be there at any date or time. So I just kind of wanted to review it. We haven't visited it lately. Many or most of you may already know this, but I wanted just to make sure you guys knew these are the official definitions. And if you're delivering an online live class, there will be an expectation that there's required Zoom meetings at certain times and dates. If you're teaching an online class, as we define it, it's no required meeting dates or times. An in-person class, of course, has the dates and times scheduled. And then a hybrid will list the requirement for on-campus meeting dates and times. So if you're teaching a hybrid, this is another thing I see. If you're teaching a hybrid and you're requiring certain dates and times, those dates and times must be listed at the time in the schedule. And you can't change those on your students halfway through the class, if that makes sense. Grant, you have your hand up.
Yeah, and one that's not on here is something that I've been doing for several years. I do dual modality. So I offer most of my classes have a completely asynchronous option. So they don't need to, they can do everything online at home and no required times. And then I have a face-to-face option, and those students can come. And what Modi said was okay is they can go back and forth. So if a student is doing a face-to-face class and suddenly they have car trouble and they can't be there, they can do the class online. Or if students halfway through the semester realize, oh, what, I wish I was in class, they can join us in class and do it that way. So it's dual modality. It's two. What I love about it is sometimes we don't know what our students want. And I offer them two options, and I set my cap. So if my cap is, say, 50 for a class, I might have 3 people in one modality and 47 in the other. And if I had only offered the one with the 3, that class might not have made, or I would have had low enrollment. So this is a nice way of, making sure that classes that are sometimes that don't have the best enrollments can capture every possible student who wants to do it in every different way. So
and that's considered a high flex course, which Gavilan College has been working on defining. But part of the problem with us coming up with a definite definition is that the state still doesn't have a definite coding for that class. So it's complicated to schedule it and then report on it. So that's been in the works, and Grant has been a leader in doing that. So it works well with his classroom. It might not work well with others. So, and it's definitely something to consider if you're thinking about, oh, hey, I want to do that for my classroom. It can be, you can actually be creating like 2 different classes. So just keep that in mind, and you should have training for it. You should just not walk out the gate and say, okay, I have an in-person class. Now I want to switch it to this modality. No, get training, because there's you can't just do what you would do in a face-to-face class and transfer that into this type of teaching modality. So we do have, I think it's got 5 class that talks a little bit about high flex and how to structure an online live class and an asynchronous class and that kind of thing, hybrid. So you can take that, or there's other resources throughout the state too that offer some stuff. But regardless, just don't say, I'm going to do that next year and not get training. Get your training. And then you have to also talk to your scheduler on how to schedule it as well, because it isn't straightforward. We don't have, the state's working on it, but it could be a couple years before they actually get coding for it, because it has to go through legislature and everything. So it's not just a matter of saying, oh, okay, we have this new modality, let's just give it a code. That's not how it happens. So yeah. And that's why it's not on here necessarily. We do have a little bit about a hybrid or a high flex. It would probably be listed under this hybrid modality, because there's going to be a little bit of information that needs to be included in the scheduling. So
yeah, the way they've done it for me is they're 2 separate classes, but their caps are linked. So I will only have the number of students set for the cap. If you have a cap of 30, you could do it, and they have 2 sections, but you still cap it at whatever the class is for one. So you're teaching the same number of students, you're just doing it in two different modalities.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would work for all classes, but works wonderfully for me.
Yeah. And Veronica's talking in the chat about how there's some confusion in the schedule, and we would agree with you. We've been working to get it cleaned up. We still have some people roll over information that was from 5 years ago before we'd kind of straightened this out. Some people use language that they think is going to clarify, so it's different than what we recommend, or it actually just might be a little much too much information, so it's a little more confusing. And so it is something that we need to continue to work on in terms of having a standardized language and taking suggestions, like you're saying the TBA is confusing, and that's a good point. That could be something that the enrollment management team works on to clean up. So that's good input. And I'm going to say this though. There are some students, and I think this is a leftover from the pandemic. There are some students who actually have signed up for face-to-face classes and these teachers have told me this, and they haven't actually showed up for their face-to-face class. And then when the teacher reaches out to them, they said, "Oh, I thought I could just choose how I attended this class." So I think that's left over from, there was a group of students there that totally had like this mixed message about how school was really supposed to go, because they came in at a time they'd never been to college before, and all of a sudden, we were shifting modalities and the expectations and so forth. So, they were a little confused. Maybe we'll see that stop happening, here shortly, but I don't know. So anyway, but good input, Veronica, and I think that's a valid point.
We talk a lot about that in department chairs, having terms that work for all.
So this site here is supposed to be what everybody settled on, but all I can do is put this out and hope that everybody kind of abides by it. But
other questions about modalities for Sabrina? Okay, well, thank you so much for coming, Sabrina. You're a great resource, invaluable to the college, and we greatly appreciate you donating your early Friday morning.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's why I come, so I can hear, the thank yous. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. I have to tell you all, though, did I do a good job? Because there's been a really pretty good sized spider crawling up and down my wall the whole time I've been talking to you. And I really want to capture him and take him outside, but
sick your dog on him.
Yeah, no, she's like, "No, you take care of that." She's all of 8 pounds. She's like, "No, you take care of that." Anyway, thank you for having me, and come see us. I'll be in the TLC more this semester, and I'll also be available on Zoom for anybody who needs the virtual aspect. So I hope to see you this semester, and have a good one.
Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, the next agenda item actually was the first thing we were going to talk about, the 5-year curriculum update. And Jan and I have been worried about this a lot because there's a lot coming down. Jan asked James to make a list of all of the classes that need their 5-year update, and it's pretty extensive. Every program in fine arts has some classes. I'm doing 22 or something, and I'm telling you, I'm pretty good at it because I've been going to these meetings. It still takes me 2 or 3 hours per class. So there's a lot of work to be done, and there are deadlines. Jan will talk about that in a minute, I'm sure, but it is a time-consuming process. There is every other week there is the tech review meeting that Jan goes to, and they delve into the classes and try to fine-tune them. Then they come to the curriculum committee as a whole, and we then look at them. And when it's at that location, they start getting nitpicky and, oh, they forgot a period here and this word is maybe a better use, and they send them back. And if things get sent back, right now there's a huge number of classes that are trying to come through, and there's only a limited time. So we need to get started right away.
Grant, can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, everybody, I color coded it. Colors are just random and it's alphabetical. This isn't the list James sent us. All right. And we have art, communication, French, humanities, journalism, Japanese, MCTV, music, Spanish, and theater. And I will send this out to everyone, including two new classes, one that Deborah offered for Asian art and one that Grant had offered, and he's working on more. That's 46 fine arts classes. 46. We have a total of 5 tech review meetings and a total of 6 curriculum committee meetings. And they add up to not a lot of time. And so we need to commit to, with those of you who have more than 5, can you have 5 of these ready for tech review, not this coming Tuesday, because that agenda's already sailed, but for the next one, which is, I'll look up the date. I will send you all the dates, all right? Music, you have 10 as well. Can you find 5 that you can do? And because music, because there's similarities, 3C, 3D, and then the 8s, because those classes are similar, those might be easy to do all at once and they get pushed through. And I'm going to stop sharing now, unless you want me to leave it up. And I will, if you want me, you tell me. But Maria has her hand up.
Yes. So a question is, some of these classes that I see, voice, guitar, I don't even know what Music 22 is, or 98 or 23. We've never offered it.
Okay, let me
So
scroll over.
do we?
Just so you know that, okay, and I'll get to that. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So the classes that we haven't offered, or I'm not aware what they are. How do we proceed? Like voice, we don't offer. Guitar, we don't offer at this point. So would the deadline still apply to those, or we have a lot more time? Applied guitar, we don't offer at all. So I'm not quite sure.
I would prioritize them.
We do need to prioritize them, but we want to keep, the emphasis is on, first of all, the classes that are being offered.
Okay.
And then classes that currently aren't being offered, but check in with us so that we can make sure that Modi is on board with, we're going to wait on these because we're going to do the current ones to keep them current. And now I'm going to flip back to, because you brought it up, thank you. Music 22 and 23, there's several programs that do have those. And historically, when we had Danae Pescarmona as the VP of Academics, there was a push to eliminate them. And a number of programs across the college did so. And Grant just went through and was eliminating his. But I had a conversation with Noah, and what we've discovered is that some classes actually need it. And there was one class over in social sciences that had their 22 and 23 class discontinued, but it turns out they're building a certificate program, and 22 and 23 fit into that. Now they have to start all over again and make it new. So right now, we are taking it on a case-by-case basis, but you shouldn't simply eliminate. If you had heard, oh, we're not doing 22 and 23 anymore, this is now being revisited. And Grant and I, in talking about curriculum, want to let you know there have been, and will continue to be, changes. And we will alert you when we know, so that nobody's caught off guard. We're also aware that the manual for creating updates and using Curricunet hasn't been updated for a while. And that, as department chairs, that's not our job to do, that's somebody else's job, but we are on your team and on your side. And as Grant mentioned, we both go to curriculum and I go to tech review. Noah goes to tech review and he is in curriculum. So we're hearing the same comments that others are bringing into this conversation. Your classes will be looked at in tech review by Rosa, who is the articulation officer, and by various deans and other faculty members if they happen to be attending that meeting. And they can offer questions, comments, concerns to tighten your curriculum. And once it gets to curriculum, the members of the committee review, and they're assigned various classes to do a deep read and give feedback on. So if it's made it out of tech review, at curriculum, it also gets scrutiny. And we want to make these as tight as possible, taking into account, Grant and I, all the conversations we've heard and the things people have offered as comments. But I do the first review to take it to tech review, and I will give you comments back as they roll through. Grant and I, if you make us co-contributors, we can handle it one of two ways. If we give you, if you get feedback, you can go in and make the changes. You can also ask us if we are co-contributors officially in Curricunet, we can make those changes. And each of us, as we've done our deep reads on the curriculum that's already moved through, have made changes to correct, to anticipate, or in tech review, I can sit there in the meeting and say, I'm changing that right now, or James, go ahead and change that and make it this word instead. So that key phrase that Grant used, so it doesn't get bounced back. We want everything to move through. And I know that was a lot of information all at once, but we are part of your team. We want, this is 46 classes, not including the 22s and the 23s. We want them all moving through.
So one of the things that we did last year is we had our Piper parties. Do you remember we all got to, or not we all, but those who could got together and we worked on them with all our laptops in the humanities office. We were talking about having a curriculum crew, another party where we would get together and do our curriculum together. The reason why I think is that if you haven't updated on curriculum recently, there will be some things that you'll miss. I pointed out those RSI tabs in DE. I just did a class and I didn't see them. And then when I did a second class, I saw them, then I had to go back and fill them in. One of the things I met with David and Albert because they had to do a class and they hadn't heard about the course objectives. and there's a there's specific rules about what course objectives and learning outcomes and the expectations for each of those. And if we're all together, then Jan and I and Noah can help you update your curriculum, and it's a more speedy, more successful process. So with that in mind, who would attend our curriculum crew parties if we had them? I'll bring food. Okay, I got one hand, so okay, there are a few thumbs. So, all right, so now we have to plan. Fridays are not always ideal. If we did a Tuesday afternoon, would that work for? Is that a bad time? Would we want to do a couple of them so that those who couldn't come on a Tuesday afternoon could do a different time, or what?
I can't do Tuesday afternoon because I'm teaching, but a Wednesday.
Can't either.
So let's do a couple of times. We can do Tuesday afternoon and then Friday morning. Okay, so I will talk with Noah, see his availability and Jan's, and we will plan in 1 week. We'll do a Tuesday and a Friday, Tuesday afternoon and a Friday morning, and try to catch everybody. I'll have some good food on that Tuesday afternoon, and then some breakfast stuff on that Friday morning. And we'll try to knock out a lot of these. I swear, once you do one, the others get a lot easier. Jan and I can tell you what the committees are looking for, the tabs that are often missed, the places where faculty often make mistakes and they're bumped back, and so we can point those out. I said David and Albert, and they did one, and it was great. And I think it's going to fly through. And I think that no offense, Albert, but I think possibly if they had done it without me there, not that I'm anything special, but I'm in all those meetings. I know what the committee is looking for. It might have been sent back, and then it delays the whole process. And we have so many of them. There's 46. But that doesn't include the 20 that I'm doing on top of that. So I'm the test program. I'm changing the name of every one of my classes to meet the state requirement. So I'm going first, and it's time consuming. But anyways, David, yes, question.
Grant or Jan, when was the most recent tech review meeting?
The current one is this coming Tuesday,
The agenda
Okay.
is set.
and that the agenda is set. And so it would be, let me grab my calendar.
That's why the crazy thing about this is you have to have things done by a certain date to be on the agenda for the tech review. And if it's not on tech review, it can't go to the next curriculum meeting. So weeks in advance, you have to have your curriculum done before they'll even start it in the process. And then if there's a single
I was just yes, because I submitted my music several weeks ago, and I just wanted to make sure it's on there.
It had other approvals it needs, and that's what I wanted to interject. It has to be approved by a department chair, and Sabrina for distance ed, and the dean, in order to move to tech review. So if we all start aiming for the 20th of February is the next tech review meeting. And that means that next week, we should have one of our parties, if you can fit it in. And we understand that this is a lot at the beginning of the semester that you're being asked to do. but that the calendar's gonna keep moving, and those meetings are gonna happen with our stuff on the agenda or not. And so we're fully in support of you getting them as tight as possible and learning the curricunet process. And I have to say, in lovely language, and I'm gonna use Denise's name because she did communications curriculum last semester, but there's so many little things, and there is that website that you have to use that's called Curricunet, and it itself is a challenge. It is, but and if you don't go on it regularly, and that was Denise's comment, you get tripped up just by the website. So if we can next week, like if next Tuesday is a date everybody can make, that is going to give you a running start to meet that February 20th check review date. And one more thing, because Sabrina was mentioning various things about modalities, and she made a passing comment of, remember, you're writing the curriculum, but you might not be teaching this class. Pause. Wait, but I always teach this class. No, actually, your department may shift and change such that you get new other assignments and someone else is going to be teaching that class. And if you think that through, what modalities should be offered? Well, I always teach it face-to-face, or I always teach it online. Maybe that other instructor wants to teach it in a different modality. So try to expand how the course could and should be taught by anyone in your program, both now and moving forward, next year, 3 years, 5 years from now.
Yeah, also off of that, Jan, when you write curriculum and say that, so we were talking about the RSI tabs and the DE tab on Curricunet. If you say that you're going to be using email announcements, discussions, Zoom meetings to do all those things, the accreditation team will look at that and then go to the individual classes. And if the classes are not doing those things, they're dinged. So you got to be aware of what your curriculum has in it and follow it. I mean, and that's why we're doing the curriculum. So as Jan says, if you're not the only one who teaches a class, you need to be aware what other instructors do, and you can't have a requirement that other instructors don't do, or if you say that something should be done, then all the instructors need to do it. So there's a lot to think about when you're writing curriculum. So I think Jan and I don't know if we mean to do this. I think we're trying to scare you a little bit because we know that the process takes time. And if we don't get started right away, there's a chance. Modi has said, absolutely, if a class goes beyond the 5-year update, it will not be offered going forward. And we don't want you to think, oh, hey, I'm going to offer this class, and then suddenly, oh, it's not through, the 5-year update has not gone through curriculum. It can't be updated. I mean, it can't be offered. That's what he says is going to happen moving forward. And so we want to make sure that all of our classes meet the 5-year update.
If we can get all of the fine arts classes onto tech review agenda, the end of February and the 2 meetings in March, you should all be good to go. And that means we start now. because it's going to take time for Grant and I to both review yours, to give you feedback, for you to make changes or ask us to create those changes to get it to the our approval, distance ed approval. And Sabrina has to look at everything at the college, which takes time, and dean approval before it gets to tech review. So we inherited this. It has become what, if for those of you who have been on campus for decades, Bonnie handled all of this, and it has simply gotten much more complex since the pandemic, and that isn't going to change. It does take a number of hours to go through all those tabs and make sure that you've made those decisions and you have clearly described what's going to happen and you understand the meaning behind those tabs.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off, Jan, but we are running out of time. So through the reports, curriculum, we're going to have our first meetings now, and then I'll send out information about the curriculum crew. Department chairs, we have our next, our first meeting coming up. We haven't had one yet. If you have questions about your budget, reach out to Jan and she can help you with that. Charisse, do you have anything for us for GCFA or Senate?
Hi, I'm sorry, were you asking a question of me?
Yeah. Do you have any updates for GCFA or Senate?
So GCFA has not met yet. Their first meeting will be next week. Our academic Senate meetings will begin next week as well on Tuesday. A couple of the things that we did at our retreat was we reviewed our goals, and it looks like we're on track for a couple of our goals. The one that we need some help with is retention and engagement of faculty to the Senate and its subcommittees. So that's one thing that we'll be focusing on this semester. Additionally, Megan and Scott and Claire kicked off our AI work group last Thursday. So hopefully you all got to attend one or more of Trudy's sessions in addition to the follow-ups with Peter, and those were super helpful regarding AI in the classroom. I'm just looking for my note and I don't see it. We are doing our regular meetings in the library on Wednesdays, or I'm sorry, the first and third Tuesdays from 2:30 to 4:30. Let's see. Seraphin, to follow up on one of the things that I mentioned last semester, Seraphin's going to come in February and he's going to talk about the capital projects. And one of the things he's going to bring to us is some dollar amounts for the updating and of the Mayock House. And so if you're at all interested in that'll be an interesting topic coming up. So they had to talk to some architects, the state architect, just to kind of see what it would cost to bring it up to the standards.
Can we volunteer to do some of the work?
That's a good question. So that's something that I can ask Seraphin if who needs to do that work, if it needs to be something that is,
I know
that
that
is,
Albert wants to crawl under the house to do the foundation work. He volunteers.
okay, I can ask him. I'm just making note. We're also working on approving an updated MOU for the poker stipend, so that there are 24 classes that are currently in the queue with distance ed to go through poker. And so we're going to look at next week approving the stipends so that it can move forward to GCFA so that they can negotiate those. And Sabrina and Modi have been working on those as well. So, oh, and today we're having another meeting for our shared governance handbook. So you'll be hearing a report out from the faculty who are on that soon. So we'll share out what it was that we did and what feedback we need from you as well. I think that's pretty much it for Senate at the moment. Do you have any questions regarding Senate? Anything that you'd like for us to look at or to work on this semester?
Not that I can think of. Jan and I will be in department chairs, and so if there's something that comes up there, we can reach out to you.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay. Okay. All right. So stay tuned for some updates from the Senate, in addition to updates from GCFA, and I'm sure that there'll be some communications coming out from Dana. So thank you.
Thanks, Cherie.
Thank
you, everybody, especially those of you who stayed the extra 5 minutes. I'm sorry about going over. Look for our emails. We're going to send some times for the curriculum crew, for those of you who need to do curriculum updates. It'll be a party. I'll bring food and we'll have some fun. Albert might play some flamenco music for us while we get it done. But thank you so much for coming, and see you soon, I hope.
Thank you.